We gonna sting ya. We gonna sting ya? Hello, Mike from Tales from Yaller. Thanks for watching. Today we'll be ranking the 19 Scorpions albums from 1972 to right up to near the present, 2022. It's a great band. You know, I think back in, if you ask people in the 80s, I don't know how many people would say the Scorpions is their favorite band. I know a lot of you are out there, but I bet a lot of people like myself would say this is a top 5 or 10 band. Everyone loved the Scorpions. They put out some fabulous music during that time period, and they put out some very worthwhile stuff before and after the 80s. So today, like I mentioned, 19 studio albums by the Scorpions, or excuse me, Scorpions. Technically, they're not the Scorpions, although their website does the Scorpions, so we'll just call them Scorpions. So at 19, my least favorite, the almost universally panned 1999's Eye to Eye. Yeah, this has been described as experimental. Yeah, it's by far my least favorite of the Scorpions' output. There's not very much in the way of heaviness about this album. The opening track, Mysterious, it's okay, but it's not particularly Scorpion-esque. Other songs like Freshly Squeezed, Priscilla, Tonight I'm Gonna Kill You. It's, there's not a lot that really grabs me on this album. Du bist so schmutzig, that's the only song to date that the Germans have largely done in their native tongue. And that actually might be my favorite song on the album, if it wasn't for this bizarre rapping that they, I think James Kotak, the drummer, did throughout this song. Damn you, slam you, eat you like a menu. Ugh, just couldn't cringe more if I saw my grandmother getting triple teamed in a porno. A few songs that aren't bad, but again, they're not particularly Scorpion-like. Like Skywriter, it's okay. The 4th song on the album, 10 Light Years Away, that was co-written with Mick Jones of Foreigner fame. It's okay, but it's very mellow. There are some songs that have, a little bit of a guitar presence in them, like Alia, and, it's, what can I say? Not a favorite. And this would be the last album to feature Ralph Riekerman on bass. He had joined for the Face the Heat, so he was their bassist through most of the 90s. So this closes out what's referred to as the Ralph Riekerman era of the band. Nah, no one ever says the Ralph Riekerman era. But anyway, and also the first album to feature drummer, American James Kotak. So yeah, what are you gonna do? 19, Eye to Eye. And for 18, I'm going with their very first album, Lonesome Crow from 1972. Fans will recall this one included young Michael Schenker, who was 15 or 16, I guess, when they recorded this. It's been described as steeped in krautrock, from the early 70s. I don't have a whole lot to say good about this album. I mean, I guess the best song, probably universally agreed, is the 4th song, In Search of Peace of Mind. In Search of the Peace of Mind. It's okay. It has a little bit of a melody and it's fine, but then it devolves into some screaming and by Klaus, and another song, Action, is kind of jazzy, and it's just, they didn't develop into the hard rock / early metal band that they had here. This early lineup was, of course, like I mentioned, the Schenker brothers on guitar, with Klaus Meine on vocals, and Wolfgang Ziarny on drums, and Lothar Heimberg. Might have mispronounced that. They would not continue on with the Scorpions after this. So, album cover, yeah, it's okay. Guy about to grab a scorpion. You probably shouldn't do that. Some other versions had a kind of a cooler looking album cover, more of a desert and a scorpion's construct. So, yeah, it's okay, the album cover, but yeah, as far as the album, I don't really reach for this too often. Yeah. So, number 18, Lonesome Crow, their first crack at it. For number 17, I'm going to 1996. And that's their album, Pure Instinct. This album cover, there was another album cover around too. I guess there was a little bit of drawn nudity on there behind the bars. I think you can see a butt. The knock on this album seems to be that there's a inordinate amount of ballads on it. And then that's true. There are some there's some good moments on it. I do like some of the songs on here. The album opener, Wild Child, which that song was produced with Keith Olsen. Yes, that Keith Olsen producer. The rest of it was co-produced by Scorpions and a guy named Erwin Munzer. But like I said, the album opener, Wild Child, I do like. Stone in My Shoe, that's a bit of a more of a, another upbeat number. It's pretty good. Scorpions are very, very optimistic band in a lot of their songs, Stone in My Shoe, getting rid of that thing that's annoying you or in your way. Yeah, they could have been motivational speakers, I guess. A couple other pseudo ballads like Soul Behind the Face and Oh Girl. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're largely ballads, but they do have a little oomph to them, so I do enjoy those. The rest of it, though, yeah, it is a lot of ballads. Where the River Flows, the 8th track, that's pretty good. Like the song indicates, has a nice flow to it. But then You and I, Are You the One? Just too many, like I said, probably a little too heavy on the ballads, but there are some things to like on this album, so I give it my number 17, Pure Instinct. And I think this is the only one where they use a session drummer on that. So, number 16, Fly to the Rainbow from 1974, their sophomore effort. Kind of a bizarre psychedelic like album cover. This one, sort of the Scorpions at this point kind of were a union. So before this album came out, Rudolph Schenker and had linked up with a band called Dawn Road with Uli John Roth. And essentially he joined that, and Klaus Meine did also. But they kept the name Scorpions because they had already had, 1972's Lonesome Crow out, a little bit more established. So the lineup here was essentially Dawn Road, which was Uli John Roth, Francis Buckles on bass, who would stay for quite a while, and Jürgen Rosenthal on drums. And then their keyboardist, he was never credited as a member of the Scorpions, but he did play keyboard on this and I think another album. But, this one, they still had that, one foot in sort of the psychedelic, maybe prog type of music that they had performed on Lonesome Crow. But they were moving a little bit towards more of the hard rock, early metal sound that they would become famous for. Speedy's Coming's the album opener, and that's a good, solid, what you would say, I guess, is a typical hard rock song. It's a good one. The other ones I really do enjoy on the album are the last two, Far Away. Klaus Meine has right from the start and right up to the present day, has a good, strong, clear voice. He showed it on this album. The album closer, Fly to the Rainbow. Those two I really enjoy. Fly People Fly, Drifting Sun. That Uli John Roth, anyone can tell you he's an outstanding guitarist, but man, they should have never let that guy anywhere near a microphone. And like on Drifting Sun, sounds like he's sort of singing underwater. But he apparently enjoyed singing, and after he left Scorpions, after, in 1978 or 9, he formed Electric Sun, and I'm never a fan of that, really, largely because of his vocals, but no doubting he's a fabulous guitarist and wrote some great stuff along with the other Scorpions here. But Fly to the Rainbow, like I said, three of the songs I kind of dig. Rest of it, not so much a fan of, but like I said, they were sort of straddling that line between their past and what they would morph into. So, yeah, it's worth a listen. Fly to the Rainbow. And for 15, going back to one of the latter day albums, and that's 2010's Sting in the Tail. I think a lot of people or Scorpions fans like this maybe a bit better than I do. To me, it's a good album. I like it, but a lot of it's kind of just kind of vanilla to me. Nothing's really terrible, but nothing's really amazing. They like the term rock on what are the for like Raised on Rock, Rock Zone, Spirit of Rock. A lot of rocks in here. I do like Raised on Rock. Good album opener, fast-paced. Sting in the Tail. The title track is probably my favorite song on the album. Hail, hail, Sting in the Tail. Pretty amusing song. But, it does have a few ballads like Lorelei and SLY, Sly. I guess that's a nod to Still Loving You. It's just okay. Spirit of Rock, another sort of, kind of a vanilla song. So, I don't like I said, I couldn't rate it really high in the catalog. This was expected to be their last album, you know, so they were saying, but you know, no one ever believes that when people say it. I mean, you know, how many times has Kiss or Motley Crue or Ozzy said they were done? So, so of course, and that was true here. They came out with, you know, they've had 2 more albums since then, so, and some tours. So a lot of the songwriting was in the later days. Scorpion albums, they have a lot of collaborators, and here the producers Michael Nord Anderson and Martin Hansen co-wrote a lot of the music on this. So yeah, Sting in the Tail. It's okay. Number 14, I'm going with their latest album, 2022's Rock Believer. This one, they got Mickey D to replace Kotak, and D, of course, had been a longtime member of Motorhead, great drummer. Of course, fans will remember he first came to prominence in King Diamond's band. He played on their first, 4 albums? One as a session drummer, but yeah, great drummer, great addition. This is a pretty good album. I was pretty happy with it when it came out, and I picked it up, and you know, I was with the Scorpions. You know, you're always a little bit afraid, is it going to be too ballad heavy? You know, what direction they're going to go? But this is pretty good. You know, it has a bunch of you know, pretty. I wouldn't say heavy, but fast-paced hard rock songs. Gas in the Tank, Roots in My Boot, Knock 'Em Dead, not Knock 'Em Dead Kid like Motley Crue. And the title track, Rock Believer. Those are really good, solid songs. And Seventh Son, that's to me that harkens back to has a little bit of a like China White, you know, type of vibe to it, which is a good thing. And you know, a couple ballads like Peacemaker, but yeah, it's a good album. It kind of grew on me a little bit, you know. Rock Believer, I thought, you know, when I first time I heard the song, it's a little bit cheesy, but then again, you know, that's part of the allure, the charm of Scorpions. You know, they're enthusiastic about their music, and it comes across. So Rock Believer, Scream for Me Screamer, I'm a Rock Believer. That's good stuff. And Klaus Meine's voice, like I mentioned earlier, still sounds really good. Even in like you know, I haven't seen him live in quite a while, but you know, I've seen some live clips of him here and there. Watched a concert not that long ago of him, and yeah, he sounds good. So his voice has really held up, where many unfortunately hasn't. So that's my number 14. And for 13, still the later day Scorpions. I still enjoy the album a lot. I think this is one of the better ones they put out in many years, and that's Return to Forever. This one, again, had a lot of collaborators. Last album to feature James Kotak as the drummer. Well, he's had some interesting things to say, some interesting quotes. I guess he was married to Tommy Lee's sister, Athena Lee, for a number of years. Anyway, yeah, this is a surprisingly good album. I remember I was reading up on it before I had listened to it back when it came out, and you know, it sounded like it was just a bunch of almost like a Led Zeppelin coda thing, you know, where they just took a bunch of, you know, songs that they had never really developed over the years, but this really turned out well. There's some really good stuff on here. Going Out with a Bang, the album opener, really good. We Built This House, boy, that's an infectious chorus, sticks in your head. You know, Rock My Car, yeah, kind of silly, but still a pretty fun song. You know, Rock and Roll Band I like quite a bit. Rollin' Home, the 8th track, that's kind of an odd song, had an odd vibe to it, but really good. And yeah, The Scratch, the 11th song, that almost sounds like a modern day version of a 1940s swing song. So don't really care for that one. But and then these bonus tracks you got on here. There's actually some really good songs on there too. The World We Used to Know, really good one. And what was the other one I liked? One and One is Three. With a lot of these, you get like 19 songs or something on the CD, and about as many on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever the choice of your streaming music. But yeah, Return to Forever. Again, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Pretty darn strong album. And for 12, going to 1988 Savage Amusement. I bought this right about when it came out. You know, my opinion of the album hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last, 30 plus years. I liked it when it came out, and I still like it. But, in 1988, if you think of, think of all the great like metal albums that came out that year, like you know, Operation Mindcrime or And Justice for All, King Diamond's Them, King Diamond, Megadeth, So Far So Good So What. Those were the albums I was really kind of into, and this one, while I liked it, you know, it has a very polished sound. It took them a long time to put this album out. From you know, the previous album came out in 1984, so it was just about 4 years it took to get this one out. This would be the last one that Dieter Dierks did the production on. Yeah, there's I do like it though, and Don't Stop at the Top. That's one of my favorite songs on the album. The album opener. You know, again, kind of a optimistic, nothing will stop you type motivational message from the Scorpions. They love that. And Rhythm of Love was the first single on that, and you know, it's fine. It's not particularly heavy. I remember the video didn't make a lot of sense. Had like a science fiction type feel to it, but you know, videos back in the 80s, they didn't have to make sense. But it was more about the visuals, I guess. You know, the other one's Passion Rules the Game. It's a good song. I guess maybe, you know, We Let It Rock, You Let It Roll. That might be my favorite. That and Love on the Run are more up-tempo, faster numbers. But in general, it's you know, like I said, it's a pretty it's strayed a bit into the pop metal / hair metal type vein of releases. You know, they had their I don't know if you can see on there, but they had their you know, permed out hair phase, much as a lot of bands did. It was reasonably successful. It would end up going platinum here in the United States. And I thought the album cover was just okay. Some woman with a leg turning into a scorpion tail. It's not an attractive look for that lady, but yeah. Savage Amusement. And for number 11, going with the 2007 release, Humanity, Hour 1. Yeah, this album, I mean, right when Hour 1, the first song on it, what a great song that is. I mean, it's heavy. You know, everything you liked about the Scorpions in the early 80s, you know, they kind of revisited in that song, you know. Very heavy, but still melodic. Great song. This album was co-produced by a couple of people along with Scorpions, one of them Desmond Child, and he co-wrote a lot of the songs on here. And of course he had you know, metal enthusiasts will remember he collaborated or wrote / co-wrote a lot of hits for bands, like huge hits for Bon Jovi, Alice Cooper, Kiss, Aerosmith. So here in 2007 he collaborated with Scorpions. They put out a pretty impressive album, I thought. It's sort of a concept album. You know, it starts out really nicely with Hour 1. The rest of the album isn't quite as awesome as the opening song, but there's some good stuff on here. The Game of Life, you know, We Were Born to Fly, very melodic. You know, You're Loving Me to Death, kind of a fun song. 3, 2, 1, that's a really good song. Cheesy, but great song. 3, 2, 1, Are You Ready to Rock? Yeah, Humanity, the album closer. You know, it's kind of a fun song, different vibe to it. So it's a very interesting release, and the songs are pretty memorable on it. So I was pretty pleased with this one, and still am. I like this album, Humanity. It's my number 11. And into the top 10. And I'm going with Face the Heat from 1993. This one kind of surprised me over the years how much I liked it. I kind of discounted it when it first came out. I mean, I've always liked the opening track, Alien Nation. That's a good heavy song. Great song. This one was last to feature Herman Rarebell on drums. Herman's a great drummer, and he contributed a lot to the lyrics over the years for a lot of the songs they put out. This was the first to have, like I mentioned before, Ralph Riekerman on bass. He'd replace Buckles. Good stuff. Good opener, like I mentioned, Alien Nation. This one was produced by Bruce Fairbairn, very well-known producer. No Pain, No Gain. Yeah, it's kind of a catchphrase, but that's a pretty good song. And Someone to Touch, another good melodic. Not a ballad, but a little slower tempo, but good song. Unholy Alliance. Woman is the first kind of like real ballad you encounter on this. Not a fan of that one. Scorpions wrote some great ballads, but this one, I'm not too much of a fan of. Hate to Be Nice. That's another fun, really cool song on that one. Ship of Fools. There's a Lonely Nights is another ballad to end the album, and then there's a bit of a hidden track there. They do a cover of Elvis Presley song. Anne Marie's the name. Anne Marie's the name of his latest flame. Has some horns, but that's kind of neat. Yeah, overall, a really, really strong album. Of course, came out in, '93. Music tastes in general were going to a grunge, and legacy metal bands had a little harder time of it in these years, but really good album. Face the Heat, my number 10. Number 9, I'm going to go with the album's predecessor, Crazy World. This was actually their second, at least here in the States, their most successful album after Love at First Sting. They sold a ton of albums. And of course, worldwide, the single Winds of Change sold just millions and millions of copies. The album opener, Tease Me, Please Me. It's such... I shouldn't like that song, but I really like it. He had a lyric, Tease Me, Please Me. But boy, what a great song that is. Don't Believe Her, another great song. To Be With You in Heaven, boy, that's got a catchy chorus to it. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Winds of Change. I think that's why when Scorpions are responsible for ending the strife in Eastern Europe back in the 90s because of that song. So I think that's why we're having so much trouble in Eastern Europe today, is because they haven't listened to Winds of Change in several years. So they need to revisit this CD. That'll clear things up. Restless Nights, yeah, a little bit of a ballad, but it's pretty good. Lust for Love, Kicks After Six. I think that's the only writing credit that Francis Buckles, the bassist, had while he was there in the Scorpions. And of course, this would be the last album to feature Francis Buckles. He's a really good bass player. I thought, he didn't just thump along with the snare drum. He did a nice job on many of their albums many of their songs throughout the years. He was again in the band from 74 up through 90. And lately he's been, off and on, he's been appearing with Michael Schenker. And so, yeah, pretty fine performer. Title track, Crazy World. Yeah, it's another good song. Ooh, it's a crazy world. And then the album closer, Send Me an Angel. Scorpions, unlike some bands, Scorpions, they write a lot of ballads and some of them aren't so good, but some of them are really good. And Send Me an Angel is another good one. This one was produced by Keith Olsen along with the Scorpions. Did a nice job on the production. Good sounding album. And like I said, it ultimately went double platinum. 2 million copies sold here in America. So it was a big one. Number 9, Crazy World. 8, going back to Scorpions in Trance. Holding my finger over it because there's a nipple showing there. I guess you look hard enough. So Scorpions and their album covers, but this is a good album in a lot of ways. This is, I think, where Scorpions really started to take off. It's the first one where they have their familiar logo that they would keep throughout the rest of their career. Really, overall, it's a good hard rock album. One of the best releases from 1975 anywhere. This one was the first of 2 albums to have Rudy Lenners on drums. The rest of the band, of course, was Klaus Meine, Rudolf Schenker, Louis John Roth, and Francis Buckles. Good album opening, Dark Lady. Roth sings most of the leads on that, but it's not too bad on this one. In Trance, the title track. Boy, that's a good one too. Sort of haunting feel to it. Life's Like a River, another good one, as was top of the bill. Robot Man's on here is another well-respected hard rock song. Overall, it's a really, really good album. And the other thing about this was the first album where Dieter Dierks did the production, first of a long collaboration with him. In my view, this is where things really started taking off for Scorpions. So, yeah, In Trance, my number 8. Number 7. Going back to a really solid album that I think is really overlooked by a lot of people. This was from 2004, and that's Unbreakable. I remember this was the album came out after the what I think was a pretty failed experiment in Eye to Eye, and they really returned to put out a really good hard rock with a little bit of a metal edge to it here and there album. I guess it didn't really perform that well as far as sales, but the reviews were pretty good, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of their best. There's a number of songs, really fast or up-tempo songs, really make this album a heck of a release. Love 'Em or Leave 'Em, Deep and Dark, Blood Too Hot, My City, My Town, Someday Is Now. Those are great songs. Some other ones have some big sweeping choruses. Can You Feel It? Borderline's entertaining. Yeah, there's a couple ballads on it, but in the last song, Remember the Good Times, that's a pretty fun song. yeah, I like everything about this album. And this was the first album to feature Pavel Machwoda. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Pavel. Gentleman from Poland, a fine bass player who's been with Scorpions now almost 20 years. Nice album cover too. I think, after Eye to Eye, it was just kind of a, very simple, classy, tasteful, just a scorpion on it with their logo and the name of the album. It was great. I remember kind of reluctantly buying it at the time it came out because I was kind of gun-shy after Eye to Eye, but I've loved this album since it came out. I think it's a heck of a release. So, much underappreciated. Unbreakable, number 7. Number 6. Going back to 1976, and that's Virgin Killer. Of course, this is the album that the album cover that most of us should have. It's just a picture of the band. Of course, it's well known. They had a 9 or 10-year-old naked girl on their first one. What are they thinking? They say it's the record company, their label that made them do that. Okay, that's fine, but at least sounds like it'd be time to get another record label. Like if I was turning in a financial report and my boss said, well, it has to have a naked 9 or 10-year-old girl, and I think I might look for another job or quit. All right, that's not an apples to apples, different time, different place, but point is, yeah, it's pretty reprehensible. At least Roth and later said it's probably the most embarrassing thing he's been part of with some of these album covers. So yeah, but anyway, the album cover aside, really good album. A lot of the early Scorpions classics are on this one. This would be the second of 2 albums that have Rudy Lenners on drums, Belgian gentleman, and Pictured Life, great opener. Backstage Queen, the title track. Hellcat, that's one sang by Roth. So a lot of these songs with Roth, as others have mentioned, of course he was a fan of Jimi Hendrix, and you can hear the influence on a lot of these songs, like Hellcat. Maybe a little Robin Trower too. I could hear some of that in there. But yeah, it's a really good album. Again, Dieter Dierks did the production on this, and a number of these songs you can hear on their excellent live album from 1978, Tokyo Tapes. So yeah, good, strong, hard rock, early metal album, Virgin Killer. And for number 5, getting in the top 5 here, I'm going with the last album to feature Uli Roth, and that was 1977, Taken by Force. This is, of course, the album cover with the, youngsters playing with guns in a cemetery. I think when I first had it, the album, it had just, a band picture. This is a little bit, I guess, offensive in some people's eyes. But there's just a couple absolute masterpieces on this one. The second song, We'll Burn the Sky. That was a collaboration between Rudolf Schenker and I believe her name was Erika Dannemann. And that was Jimi Hendrix's, one of his last, girlfriends at whose house he had passed away. So the lyrics were sort of a tribute to Hendrix. But boy, what a fabulous song that is. That's one of the best they've ever done. A couple other big ones on here. Sales of Sharon. I've always thought it was Charon, Styx, guy from the underworld. King Diamond said it was Charon. Who are you going to believe, Scorpions or King Diamond? King Diamond. I don't know. Doesn't matter. However you pronounce it, it's a heck of a great song. Great guitar work, great vocals by Klaus on that one. Really good song. The other, couple other ones, a lot of high points on it. He's a Woman, She's a Man. I guess that song about them, they saw some women from a distance. It turned out to be guys. Hey, happens to all of us, right? And Steam Rock Fever, the album opener. That's a really good, good strong hard rock song. It does have a, I don't know, that jackhammer sound. That's a little distracting, but but I've Got to Be Free. Yeah, that's another great one. Your Light. That I really like. It has that kind of mellow opening, but then it really picks up. Yeah, the last song, Born to Touch Your Feelings. It's okay. It's more of a ballad, but this was the first album to feature Herman the German Rarebell on drums. I guess he had been hanging around in England and gotten to be chummy with Michael Schenker, and Schenker urged him to try out for the opening after Rudy Lenners had left the band. And kind of funny interview if you're Herman talk about the They gave him an airplane ticket to get back to Germany, and turned out it didn't work, so he had to spend another week there and have people figure it out. So he was kind of stranded for a little while. Kind of funny. But, and of course, this would be the last one, like I mentioned, to feature Uli John Roth on guitar. And it really sounds like that was kind of it was not an acrimonious breakup. You know, people always cite musical differences when they break up or leave, but it's not like that was actually the case here, you know. Of course, he would go on to form Electric Sun, his own band, and Scorpions would adopt a more, you know, hard rock, early metal sound that we all love. And, you know, I know a lot of people would take those Uli John Roth era ones as their best. You know, I understand that. I just don't agree with it. It's not like I'm missing something. My favorite era of the Scorpions was the 80s, or 79 through 84, and that's where my top 4 picks are coming from. Number 4, I'm going with their most successful commercial album anyway, and that's Love at First Sting from 1984. You can see some side breasts there. What is with the Scorpions in their album covers? Jeez, always a breast or something floating around. But this one sold huge in the United States. Huge singles like Rock You Like a Hurricane, Bad Boys Running Wild. Such a dumb Bad Boys. Big City Nights was another good one. And of course, almost like the prototypical power ballad, Still Loving You. I shouldn't like that one, but I do like that. Klaus Meine's voice sounds great on it, of course. And, you know, Meine never gets, he's never mentioned as like one of the greatest vocalists in hard rock or metal, and he really deserves to be. Yeah, his pronunciation's a little bit off sometimes. He says, you know, we instead of a way a lot, or you instead of you. But that's fine. His English is a heck of a lot better than my German would ever be. I only know a few phrases in German. You know, I can ask for directions, explain I don't know how to speak German very well, call for help if my uncle is being assaulted by cobras. You know, everyday phrases I could get around. But yeah, this album, even though, yeah, it's commercial and everything, there's great stuff on it. And even the songs that weren't like really big singles, great stuff, like Coming Home, The Same Thrill. So that's a pretty heavy, fast song. Crossfire is good. Yeah, it's a great album. Of course, like I mentioned, I think it ended up going like 3 times platinum here. You know, sold over 3 million ultimately here in the United States. So, great album. Huge tour. They had a live album on that tour also. So, yeah, great stuff. For my number 3, going with 1979's Lovedrive. You know, another cover guy, breast gum, you know. So weird Scorpions would do that on an album cover. There's 8 songs on this album. This one was the first to feast Matthias Jabs on guitar, although Michael Schenker contributed a lot of work on it. After the album came out, Jabs was kind of out and Michael Schenker was back in. Of course, he had left UFO a year or so earlier. Unfortunately, Michael Schenker being Michael Schenker, that didn't last very long, and Jabs was back in the band and has been forever after. Again, another great album. I almost kind of agonized on whether to rank this one 3rd or 2nd. Great stuff on here. Loving You Sunday Morning, the album opener. That's a great song. Another piece of meat. Really jacks up the intensity on the album. Another fast-paced one. There's a couple really good power ballads on here. Always Somewhere, the 3rd song. And then the album closer, Holiday. Yeah, it picks up at the end, but it's still a great ballad. Love the title track, Lovedrive. Coast to Coast is a great instrumental. Yeah, not a bad song on the album. And the album, you know, of course, has the 2 people from the front covering up the breasticle there, but they just can't get away from that. And again, a lot of these songs you could hear on their 1985 live album, Worldwide Live. So that's my number 3. And for number 2, I'm going with Animal Magnetism from 1980. Same lineup of Klaus Meine, Schenker, Jabs, Herman the German Rarebell on drums, and Francis Buckles on bass. You know, Herman Rarebell put out a couple of solo albums in the 80s. That's my assessment of it. But anyway, Animal Magnetism, boy, what a phenomenal album this is. Make It Real opens up the album. Don't Make Promises Your Body Can't Keep. Rarebell, I believe, did the lyrics on that. Hold Me Tight, 20th Century Man, and then first side closed with another great ballad by the Scorpions, Lady Starlight. Love the opening to Falling in Love. That's another great song. I like that little intro they do before it. Really adds a lot to the song. Only a Man, again, great song. And then, of course, the album's closed with two just classics. The Zoo. Everyone loves The Zoo, right? Yeah, we've heard it a million times. Still a great song. And the title track, Animal Magnetism. Yeah, again, another great vocal performance by Mina on this. And like I was saying earlier, even here in 2022, you know, from, well, it's 2023 now, but even when they put out the last album in 2022, I mean, his voice sounds great to this very day. Yeah, 2022 is a great year. You know, we got another Scorpions album among some other great legacy acts, like Michael Schenker. Kansas Jayhawks won the college basketball tournament. I was big into that. Big Kansas fan. They last made the Final Four in 2018. They last won the title in 2008. And so it was a great year. Any of your North Carolina or Duke doesn't win the national championship, it's a pretty good year. But it's a great year if Kansas wins it. But hey, I could talk about college basketball all day. We're here to talk about Scorpions. And for me, there was never a doubt that the greatest thing the Scorpions ever did is 1982's Blackout. This is where they really picked up, I think, popularity in the United States. You know, they had a pretty good hit with No One Like You. Good album cover, too. Of course, we all thought that was Rudolph Schenker back in the day, because even in the video, he was dressed up like that. But, of course, this is the album artist, sort of self-rendering. You say Blackout. Boy, what a great album opener that is, isn't it? Can't Live Without You. You know, every song on here is just a gem. Dynamite, Arizona. Arizona, I love the interplay between the guitars, you know. Good stuff. China White, kind of an uncharacteristic, plodding, but still so heavy song on that. And, of course, warning us about blowing up the world. Scorpions do that a lot. It's kind of like their public service messages, you know. Seems like most albums, they have at least one song they're, you know, begging for peace or some sort of horrible prophecy is going to come true. That's their idea of a public service message, I guess. But again, another Dieter Dierks produced album. And this was just it was a great album. This might be a top 10 album for me of all time. That's how much I like this album. Of course, every time I say that, then I think about 12 other top 10s I have, or 20 of it. Anyway, whatever the case, this is my favorite Scorpions album by far. Never a doubt. Love that since 1982 and love it to this day. So that's my number one. 19 studio albums by Scorpions. Heck of a band, heck of a discography. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like. I get very sad if you don't like the videos. I have very low self-esteem, so it really does marvels for my mental well-being if you like it. So thank you. But again, thanks for watching.